The December wind sliced through my thin jacket as I stood on the doorstep of the Mason family estate, watching my mother-in-law's perfectly manicured hand wave goodbye, right before she slammed the heavy oak door in my face. I pressed a protective hand over my growing belly, my breath coming in unsteady clouds. Just like that, everything I had built crumbled. My name is Emma Chin. At 28, I was pregnant, alone, and locked out of the only home I had known for the past 3 years. But Victoria Mason had no idea what she had just done, or who she was truly dealing with. "You'll thank me later, James," I heard her say through the door to my husband. "She was never good enough for you. No connections, no family wealth, just some scholarship girl who got lucky." I waited, heart pounding, for James to speak up, to defend me, but his silence was deafening, the same silence that had crept into our marriage over the past few months, as his mother's influence poisoned everything we had built together. The irony? Victoria Mason was right about one thing: I had gotten lucky, but not in the way she thought. 3 years ago, I was a fresh MIT graduate, a software engineer developing an AI algorithm that had the potential to revolutionize supply chain logistics. James and I met at a tech conference, where I was presenting my research. He was there on behalf of his family's shipping empire, Mason Global Logistics. It was love at first sight. Or so I believed. The wedding had been rushed, small, intimate, without Victoria's approval, but James had been adamant. "We don't need their blessing," he had whispered, "we just need each other." Those words felt hollow now as I stood in the cold, the weight of betrayal settling over me. What Victoria didn't know was that, while she had been preoccupied with charity galas and maintaining her pristine social image, I had been building something of my own. My algorithm wasn't just theoretical anymore, it was ready. And soon, it would change everything. My fingers trembled from cold and adrenaline as I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person I knew I could count on. "Maya, it's happening. They kicked me out." My sister didn't miss a beat. "I'm on my way. The apartment is ready. Time to launch Plan B." Maya Chin, brilliant corporate lawyer and my fiercest protector, had always been my rock, especially after we lost our parents a decade ago. She was the one who had pushed me to keep developing my algorithm, even after I married James. "Never put all your eggs in one basket, little sister," she had warned, "especially not a golden one." As I waited for Maya, my mind drifted back to the conversation I'd had with James that morning. He had found the prenatal vitamins in my drawer. Instead of happiness, I saw hesitation in his eyes. "Did you plan this?" His voice was tight. "Is this some kind of trap?" The accusation stunned me. "Trap? James, we're married, we talked about having children. Mother thinks the timing is suspicious," he muttered, rubbing his temples. "With the company's merger coming up." That was when I should have realized, he wasn't the man I had married anymore. He was just another pawn in Victoria Mason's endless chess game. A sleek black Tesla pulled up to the curb, and Maya jumped out, wrapping me in a fierce hug. "Those pretentious snobs," she muttered, grabbing my bags. "Just wait until they see what's coming." As we drove away from the Mason estate, an unexpected calm settled over me. Victoria thought she was securing her family's empire by pushing me out. She had no idea she had just set in motion exactly what I had been waiting for. Maya glanced over as she navigated through the city. "You okay? The stress isn't good for the baby." I placed a hand on my belly, a small kick. "I'm fine," I said, "better than fine." Reaching into my bag, I pulled out my laptop. "Remember how you told me to always have a backup plan?" Maya nodded. "Well," I said, opening my screen, "I have something to show you." The results of my latest simulation glowed on the display. "The algorithm I've been working on, it's not just theoretical anymore. I've been running real-time simulations using Mason Global's shipping data." Maya's eyes widened. "Emma, what exactly have you been up to?" I turned the screen toward her. "I've developed an AI-driven logistics system that can predict supply chain disruptions before they happen, optimize shipping routes in real time, and cut costs by up to 40%. I took a breath. "I call it Chainsight." Maya pulled into her building's parking garage, staring at me. "And you tested this using their data?" I nodded. "James gave me full access when we got married. He wanted me to understand the family business. Victoria hated it, but he insisted. I've been refining the algorithm ever since." Maya let out a low whistle. "Do you realize what you have here?" "I do," I said, closing my laptop. And so do the venture capitalists I've been meeting with. They're ready to fund Chainsite's launch. We're just waiting for my signal. Maya's face split into a wide grin. And Victoria just handed you the perfect reason to press go. As we rode the elevator to Maya's penthouse, I thought about Victoria's smug expression as she shut the door in my face. She thought she was getting rid of a gold digger, a nobody. Instead, she had just freed me to become her biggest competitor. Maya's apartment was everything the Mason estate wasn't: modern, sleek, and surprisingly warm. She had set up the guest room for me weeks ago, just in case. My sister was nothing if not pragmatic. "Get some rest," she said, helping me unpack. "Tomorrow, we make some calls. It's time to show the Masons what a nobody from nowhere can really do." That night, as I lay in bed, my hand resting on my growing belly, I felt stronger than I had in months. Victoria thought she was protecting her family's legacy. But in truth, she'd just given me the push I needed to build my own. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "Mother says this is for the best. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Let him think I was broken, devastated. Let Victoria believe she'd won. They had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I woke to an email from my lead investor, Sarah Chen, no relation, though we always joked about it. "Ready when you are, say the word, and we'll start the funding round." I glanced out Maya's window at the sprawling city skyline. In the distance, Mason Global's headquarters loomed large. Soon, they'd see my company's name up there too, but first, I had work to do. Maya was already up, multitasking, making breakfast, answering calls. She'd cleared her schedule for the next week to help me set everything in motion. I walked into the kitchen, and she handed me a prenatal vitamin and a glass of orange juice. "The team's ready," she said, hanging up her phone. "We can file the incorporation papers today. You sure about this?" I took the vitamin, thinking about James's accusation yesterday. Had I planned this? Not exactly, but I had been prepared for it, thanks to Maya's constant warnings and my own instincts. "I'm sure," I said, opening my laptop. "Victoria wants a war, let's give her one." Maya's smile was fierce, the kind that had always made me feel like nothing could touch me. "Then let's get to work." The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, calls, and paperwork. Maya's law firm handled everything with surgical precision, and by the end of the week, Chainsite was officially incorporated. The initial funding round was oversubscribed. It seemed every investor in town wanted a piece of what we were building. James called several times, but I let his messages go straight to voicemail. His tone shifted from concern to desperation as news of Chainsite's incorporation spread. "Emma, what are you doing?" His last message: "Mother's furious. She says you stole company secrets. We could sue you for this." I played the message for Maya, who couldn't help but laugh. "Let them try," she said, shaking her head. "Every bit of data you used was legally accessed with full permission. We've got James's emails proving it." Of course, she was right. I'd kept meticulous records, knowing this day might come. Victoria Mason hadn't raised an idiot for a son, she just never expected his wife to be smarter than he was. As I ended the first part of my story, I knew I was just getting started. Victoria Mason thought she was teaching me a lesson about knowing my place. Instead, she had given me exactly what I needed: freedom. Freedom to build something that would change everything. Not just for me and my baby, but for the entire industry she thought she controlled. The real question was, what would happen when she realized exactly what she had done? 6 months after Victoria Mason slammed the door in my face, I stood before a packed conference room at the National Logistics Convention. My hand rested on my now visible baby bump as I prepared to demonstrate Chainsite to the industry's biggest players. The irony wasn't lost on me. Mason Global's leadership team sat in the front row, Victoria and James among them. Victoria's expression was its usual mask of cold disdain, but I could see the tension in her jaw. James looked pale, almost sick. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady despite the flutter in my belly, "what you're about to see will revolutionize the way we think about supply chain management." As I launched into the demonstration, showing real-time optimization of shipping routes and predictive analytics that could save companies millions, I watched Victoria's expression shift from dismissive to concerned. By the time I revealed the cost-saving projections, she was gripping the armrests so tightly her knuckles were white. The past 6 months had been intense. Maya and I had worked around the clock, building the company from her penthouse. Our team expanded quickly, filled with brilliant engineers and developers who shared our vision. Pregnancy had been hard, but every kick from my baby reminded me why I was doing this. Victoria had tried everything to stop us. First, the cease and desist letters, claiming I had stolen proprietary information. Maya's legal team shut that down in a heartbeat, presenting the documentation of every permission James had granted me to access their systems. Then, the whisper campaign, rumors about my character, my background, and suggestions that I was unstable. But Victoria had underestimated how ready the industry was for change. ChainSite's early trials with smaller companies had produced results that couldn't be ignored. "Any questions?" I asked, wrapping up the demonstration. The room erupted with raised hands, but Victoria was already on her feet. "This is nothing but smoke and mirrors," she declared, her voice cutting through the room. "Miss Chin claims her system can reduce costs by 40%, but where's the proof? Mason Global has been in this business for generations. We know what's possible and what isn't." I smiled, prepared for this moment. "Excellent question, Mrs. Mason. Perhaps your son can help answer it, since he's seen the system in action." All eyes turned to James. His face went ghostly pale. He knew exactly what I was referring to, the trial runs I'd done using Mason Global's data, the ones he had enthusiastically approved before his mother's influence poisoned everything. I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. But his face told the truth. "Really?" I asked, pulling up a series of emails on the screen behind me. "Because according to these messages, you were quite impressed with the initial results. In fact, you called them revolutionary and suggested implementing them company-wide." Victoria's face went scarlet. The emails were damning, not just for their content, but because they proved every accusation. The accusations James's mother had leveled against me about stealing company secrets were false. James had been my biggest supporter, until she turned him against me. After the presentation, investors flooded around me. Maya handled most of them with ease, her legal expertise proving invaluable as we fielded partnership offers and investment proposals. But I couldn't shake the feeling that James was somewhere in the background, lost. Finally, as the crowd began to thin, he approached me. Victoria was nowhere in sight. "Emma," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. The man I had once fallen in love with seemed smaller now, diminished. "About what, James?" I asked. "About how you let your mother kick out your pregnant wife? Or about how you've spent the last 6 months trying to destroy everything I've worked for?" He flinched at the words. "I didn't know about the baby, about any of it," Mother said. "That's the problem." I cut him off. "Mother said, Mother thinks, Mother knows best. When was the last time you thought for yourself?" He hesitated, his shoulders slumping. "The company's stock dropped 15% after your presentation. Mother's furious. The board is asking questions. Maybe we could work something out." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Now you want to work something out, after everything? You're still my wife," he said, reaching for my hand. I yanked it away. "Actually, I'm not," I said, my voice cold. "The divorce papers were delivered to your office this morning. Maya's firm handled everything. You should read them carefully, especially the part about the baby." His face fell, and for a fleeting moment, I almost felt sorry for him. "Emma, please, that's my child too." "Yes," I agreed, "and you'll have visitation rights once they're born, but you lost the right to be their father the day you chose your mother over your family." Maya appeared at my side, just in time. "Everything okay here?" James stepped back, his posture defeated. "I am sorry, Emma, for everything." "I'm not," I said, the words coming easily. "Everything that happened led me here." I paused, letting the weight of that statement sink in. ChainSite is already revolutionizing the industry, and we're just getting started. I didn't bother to glance at James as I finished. "So thank your mother for me, James. She gave me exactly what I needed, freedom." He turned and walked away, shoulders hunched. Maya squeezed my arm. "You okay?" I nodded, watching James disappear into the crowd. "Better than okay," I said, a smile tugging at my lips. "Did you see the partnership offers we got today? 6 major shipping companies want to implement ChainSite immediately," Maya confirmed, her tone tinged with excitement. And that's just the beginning. Victoria's worst nightmare is coming true. You're not just competing with Mason Global. I raised an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? You're going to surpass them. 2 weeks later, I sat in my new office, reviewing the latest performance reports. Chainsight was growing faster than anyone could have predicted. Companies were switching to our system in droves, drawn by the cost savings and efficiency improvements we provided. Mason Global's stock had continued to plummet, and whispers of discontent ran through their investor base as they questioned their ability to adapt to the changing industry. I'd heard through the grapevine that Victoria had been forced to step down from the board, though she was fighting it every step of the way. A knock at my door broke my concentration. Maya entered, waving a tablet. "You need to see this," she said, pulling up a news article. The headline hit me like a punch to the stomach. Mason Global Logistics announces major restructuring, CEO James Mason steps down. "He's leaving the company?" I asked, scanning the article quickly. Maya nodded, a sly grin creeping onto her face. "Word is he's starting his own venture, something about embracing innovation and new directions in logistics." I sat back in my chair, absently rubbing my belly where the baby was kicking. His mother must be beside herself. "Oh, she is." Maya's grin widened. "But that's not all. Look at the last paragraph." I read it, and a strange mix of emotions bubbled inside me. In a surprising move, James Mason has expressed interest in potential collaborations with emerging industry leaders, specifically citing Chainsight's revolutionary approach to supply chain management. Maya raised an eyebrow, waiting for my reaction. "What do you think? Should we hear him out?" I paused, remembering the man who had once been excited about innovation, before his mother's influence had taken over. Maybe, free from her control, that man still existed somewhere. "Set up a meeting," I said, my voice firm, "but make it clear, this is business, nothing more. If he wants to work with Chainsight, he'll need to prove himself, just like anyone else." Maya nodded, already pulling up her calendar. "And Victoria?" she asked, her smile sharp. I leaned back in my chair, thoughts drifting to my former mother-in-law and her grand plans for her family's legacy. "She can watch from the sidelines," I said with a grin, "watch as everything she tried to protect gets transformed by the nobody from nowhere she threw out in the cold." The baby kicked again, stronger this time, and I placed both hands on my belly. In 2 months, I'd be a mother myself. But unlike Victoria, I would teach my child that true legacy isn't about maintaining control. It's about having the courage to create something new. Victoria thought she was protecting her son's inheritance when she kicked me out that cold December day. Instead, she had triggered a revolution in the industry she thought she controlled, led by the very person she had underestimated most. As I looked out my office window at the city skyline, where the Chainsight logo now shone as brightly as Mason Global's, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about soaring higher than your enemies ever thought possible.